Hello, shalom, salom, and hola. Welcome to the Hot Jewish Podcast. I'm Michael Valdes, aka Hot Jewish Energy. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, and X at Hot Jewish Energy, at Hot Jewish Podcast, and at Michael T. Valdes with an S at the end. I have an amazing guest on today. We actually filmed earlier last year, and I wanted to bring her on to make it more relevant. I've been doing that with some of my episodes for this season, and she is just a force of nature, performing artist like myself. Her name is Alexandra Light, and I am very excited to have her on today. She's going to be talking about her journey in the dance world and basically her experience as a Jewish woman in the entertainment industry and performing arts. So, without further ado, we're going to take a little tiny break. Actually, I got to talk about this sweatshirt for a second. It is made by Les Cools. They sent it to me. It says Am Yisrael Chai right here on the left. And then on the back, which I'll put right here, it says Shalom in this very cool font and design. And I just want to say big thank you to Les Cools for sending this to me. I'm really excited to wear it and to promote it. It's so soft and nice. And after this very short break, we're going to get into my interview today with Alexandra Light. This is the Hot Jewish Podcast. Hi everybody, welcome back. I'm here again. I This is the first time you're seeing her, but this is part two for us. But Alexandra Lights. Hi, welcome back.
Hey, I'm back. I can't even remember what day we originally recorded on, but it feels like a really long time.
You were one of the first people that I filmed from.
That's wild.
Yeah, we filmed in like April or May of last year, or maybe even March. I can't.
Yeah, I really don't remember.
But we have you back because I know there are updates on your end. A lot has been happening, and I also want people to get a scope of what you have been experiencing, especially with the global climate changing in the last 3 months. So I want people to get to know you because they would have gotten to know you in the unreleased episode, but now we're gonna give them the same thing, but just definitely a lot more to talk about. So I want to hear heritage wise, family life wise, you grew up in DC, but you're currently now in Texas. So what was it like for you pre-Texas growing up in DC?
I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. for my first couple years of life, and then my parents bought a house just outside of the district because D.C. is just like kind of crazy, and my sister was on the way. I'm one of three girls, and my parents are both Jewish now, but my dad was born super Orthodox. I won't say super Orthodox, actually, Orthodox in Brooklyn, and not Brooklyn. Oh my God. My sister lives in Brooklyn now. That's why it's on top of mine. In the Bronx. It's the letter B and the letter R. And then my mom is originally from Philly, but she grew up kind of Catholic. Like she went to Catholic school a little bit. It wasn't like super crazy for her growing up. Like I don't think they were super practicing. And she grew up in Allentown, which she always described to me as a place with a really high Jewish population. So she was exposed to Jewish culture from a really young age. And when she started dating my dad was like, I think my family is like not gonna go for it unless like, are you into conversion? Like, how do you feel about this? And she was super down to convert to Judaism. So she converted to Judaism and they got married in 92 and like 9 months later I was born. um, so yeah, fun fact, I'm a honeymoon baby. LOL. I don't know. We didn't have to get there, but yeah. It's spicy. No, I don't know. My mom had Crohn's disease, so like they told her that she was going to have a hard time getting pregnant. So she was like, "Well, I might as well go off birth control now." Anyway, okay, now I'm just airing my mom's dirty laundry, I
Wait,
guess. I mean, not dirty laundry,
it
like her experience.
isn't Crohn's like a like digestive? Yeah,
Yeah, it like affects your guts, and it seems like it can affect different people differently.
that's very Jewish of
But
her, and she wasn't even born Jewish.
she always like made the joke that like, someone in her family somewhere probably was. I mean, she's like her heritage is Irish and English. So like, everybody was over there in Europe doing their thing, like who knows.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, I came along in 92, and then my sister shortly after in 95. And we have a youngest sister who's, she's 10 years younger than me, which is just so crazy. She just left for abroad. But
She's about my
growing up,
age.
it's so wild.
Yeah.
Like, also, like, my sister, my baby, like, she's always my baby sister, and she'll always seem like younger than anybody I know, even though, like, I work with people now who are younger than her, and I'm just like, nope, but she's like the babyest baby in the whole world. I don't know. Um, but we grew up, like, I think when I was young, we were more along the lines of conservadox. Like, we kept Shabbat a little bit when I was a little kid. My dad has always attended services on, Shabbat services. Um, but like we didn't like my dad didn't daven like three times a day. So like we weren't fully, I think he did when he was growing up, or I know at least my uncles do. My uncle, he has two brothers. They both made Aliyah in their early adulthood. Actually my husband did the math. 80% of my family lives in Israel. So I guess getting back to my upbringing, we would go over there every other year for Pesach when I was growing up. So my first trip to Israel, I think I was 6 or 7 years old. And we went every other year. So I've obviously been many times, and lots of family over there. And they are definitely like modern Orthodox, like daven three times a day, like the whole deal. And all of my cousins also. Um, and as I got older, like growing up, obviously I got into ballet and dance, which like, there actually are quite a few like historical figures in the dance world who were Jewish. Like the first one I think of is Anna Pavlova, and we can get onto her later. It wasn't the easiest place for me growing up in my community to like have that. Like we obviously had to start driving on Saturdays. Like that just sort of became a thing because like my parents had to decide, okay, like where does our religious practice sort of like get in the way of our daughter like wanting to do these things, and like just trying to figure out how having a high level of practice when I was growing up of Judaism, and like finding the balance between like living a secular American life, because unlike in Israel or my uncles and the rest of my family are, uh, we don't really have a system that's set up for that.
Mhm.
So I was really lucky that like, and of course me being young, like I didn't think anything of that. Like I was just like, yeah, screw Shabbat. Like I want to go to rehearsal. Like I want to dance with my friends. Like and like as an adult, like I look back and I think more about like, okay, like how do I still make these like cultural things and religious things like a part of my life, even if I don't practice them in like a traditional way. But
Mhm.
so we got a little bit more to like the middle conservative level, like as I got older, and like, me and my sisters had activities and stuff like that. But I mean, our practice was pretty serious when we were younger. We kept kosher in the house. Obviously, my parents still keep kosher in the house, even though only me and my dad still keep kosher. And we're talking like a conservative level kosher. Like I'll eat processed food that doesn't have a hechsher as long as I know that it's like, not pork rinds or something like that. And people ask me all the time. So my two sisters actually now as adults like don't keep kosher, but they're still like they still very much identify as Jewish. They just, have a different level of practice. And like my parents were very chill about that as we got older, which was really nice to like have that flexibility. Um yeah, but yeah, people ask me all the time like why I still keep kosher. Like I still get comments from time to time like I don't know. It's such a funny thing, like being a community where most people are not Jewish and the whole kosher thing. Like some people are really like interested and sweet about it, but then other people, it's like they're just kind of shitty about it.
Yep.
Obviously, we'll get into more of like how only now am I realizing like, oh, some of this is just anti-Semitic
Mm.
like bullshit going on, but yeah. Anyway, that was kind of growing up
So
in our
it's an
household.
it's an interesting thing because your your parents, even your mom converted, but when they were getting to know each other and everything, it was two different religions kind of coming into the picture. And now as an adult, you mentioned to me you're in an interfaith marriage, which that's such a cool dynamic that your parents had that your mom ended up converting, but now you're you're going on that journey of that. How has that been for you?
It's been really good. Yeah, it's kind of fun to come back to because I feel like when we first spoke, we were still like within our first year of marriage, and now we've like passed our first anniversary.
Yay!
We're like an old married couple at this point. Yeah, so like I kind of dated both Jewish guys and non-Jewish guys.
Mhm.
It was just sort of like happenstance that two of my more serious boyfriends like happened to be Jewish, because like I tried J date. Like I'm just so glad. I feel like with the rise of social media, it's like become easier. But like when I was a little bit younger, it was like it was so difficult to like
Mhm.
find Jewish people, especially now living in like the North Texas area. Like there are Jewish populations here, but like they're small. They're small compared to like all my friends and family who are still on the East Coast. Like I said, my sister lives in Brooklyn. Like for her, it's like a lot easier to date Jewish guys
Mhm.
than it is for me. Like I just don't, meet them very regularly. I have to really try, and then you're in this community of people. It's like, oh, it's smaller. But so yeah, I just hadn't really found anybody who was Jewish, and then I started dating Preston, who's now my husband. Um, and I remember, of course, like as a person who was getting closer to the age they wanted to be married at. I'm 31 now. So I met him when I was 28 or 29. And, knowing sort of like, okay, I'm probably, looking for a partner who's more in for the long haul. So of course it was like, top of mind to be like, hey, just so you know, I'm Jewish. Like I want to raise my kids Jewish. Like I never personally cared if my partner ever converted or not. And I mean, I think we talked a little bit about it last time, like the whole matrilineal, patrilineal stuff going on in Judaism. I mean, there's people who wouldn't consider me Jewish just because my line is not like by blood matrilineal because my mom converted. So, there's that whole issue. But I think that's why it was more of a thing between my parents, just because they really wanted the identity of my mother being Jewish, even if it was by conversion. So I think what made me more chill about it was just knowing that like, okay, I already like have the seal of approval because like, as long as you don't disagree with my mom's conversion, like my children will be Jewish by matrilineal line. Not that I think that
It
patrilineal
matters,
Jews don't
yeah.
count. Yeah, I definitely, like disagree with people who like won't recognize conversion, obviously, or people who have only a father figure
Literally,
who's Jewish. Like
conversion
I
is
think
one of the biggest mitzvahs. I'm like, I
and people like it's so funny. People think it's like because other religions, like I was just having a conversation with my husband about this the other day. Like during the Crusades, like people would like literally like at freaking sword point, like make people convert and just be like, I'm Christian, and like that's sort of what it was because they have, that what's the word for it? Proselytizing, like they're trying to, and like no shade to Christians or anything, but just like that's just the basis for so many other religions. So people think like it's so easy, you just say I'm Jewish now, and it's like lol, no it is not. Like my mom had the hardest time, and like and like she just like to hear her talk about her conversion process, I'm just like lol, this was such a thing. So yeah, I mean, so for one, like, knowing that my kids could be recognized as Jewish pretty easily in the communities, was chill with me. And then also like just knowing how important Judaism is to me and thinking like, well, I would never want someone to kind of be like, well, to marry me, you have to like convert to this thing when I already have such an identity. Like I just couldn't really see myself doing that to someone else. Like no shade to my dad, like obviously it was a different situation. My mom also like she said like she grew up wanting a bat mitzvah because all of her friends in her community like had bat mitzvahs, and she was like, I kind of dreamed of being Jewish from a young age. So there's definitely a lot of like complicated mixed feelings about the whole thing, but I am super happy to be in an interfaith marriage. Preston has like his whole own journey when it comes to religion. Like he's 12th generation Texan, which if you had told me when
wow.
I was younger, like I would marry a Texan, like I would have never believed you. But he's a good one. He's a good one. Like he is
I
a good
saw him
one.
for a
He's amazing.
second. He said mid goy
Yeah.
energy. I was like, what is going on? He gets it. He gets.
From the moment we started dating, like he immersed himself, and I mean, so he's going back to school. He wants to become a professor of art history. He is the biggest history nerd. Like he's such a bookworm. Like he just loves freaking knowledge. Like he's the kind of person that like instead of watching junk TV, he's like watching some like YouTube like video essay on like medieval practices of like cat grooming or like you know what I mean? Like it's just like he's so interested in like random like he's just so good at knowing things. So from a really early time in us dating, he was like looking up so much stuff about Judaism, and it was actually like so much fun for him to like bring up things to me that like of course Judaism is such a spectrum. So like sometimes he'd bring up these concepts that are like really dotty, and I was just like, this does not apply to me. Like I don't practice at that level. But then other times he'd bring up stuff that was like, totally like different level than how I practice. And I was like, okay, so like I wouldn't really do that in my form of practice. And so it was super fun to like get to go through that initially. And like I almost wish he knew less because I love the process of like him learning about it. Like we're still finding things every now and then that he's like, wait, what's this? But he is so good at educating himself. Like he knows a lot of it now. You know what I mean? So
At least he's
yeah,
curious. There's some
yeah,
couples that are interfaith, and whether it be one person who's another religion and the other one doesn't really identify as strongly with anything, or Jewish and then someone is kind of finding their own spiritual journey, some people just don't have interest and they don't want to learn anything. Would Do you think if he wasn't as invested in learning and being curious, do you think it would make things a little bit more difficult for your marriage?
I would say it would have probably been like a bigger consideration. Well, I had one relationship that was not so great where the guy was like kind of actively against my religion, and I was like, okay, this is not going to work out long term. Like, you can't think that Judaism is brainwashing and then like be chill. I was just like, ugh, I wish I knew this on like initially before we were a year in, and I hear you like hate all religions, and like even though like I identify strongly with my you know religion slash cultural identity. That's a little complicated. So yeah, I feel like just knowing that he was curious about this type of stuff, he was down for like raising Jewish children, and also down for like the complicatedness and exploring together like what that will look like as interfaith. Because we've both never experienced that before. I mean, it's the same idea of like, hopefully we hope to have kids one day, but of course, like no matter how many parenting lessons you hear, like the first time you have kids, when you go to do it yourself, like it is a learning thing. So, but I think there will be that extra layer of challenge to the fact that like we'll have to sort of explore like how do we explain things to our kids? How do we make them feel comfortable in their religious identity and their cultural identity? Um, I think also it was really easy to tell that Preston was going to be just a great partner in that curious explorative way because of his own journey. So like I was saying, he raised here, born and raised here, tons of generations here in Texas before him, and so he grew up very very much in the church, and when he got to be 18, like just had this like awakening one day is like the only trite way I can think to say it, where he was just like, wow, this is not for me at all, and just totally left religion and went through a couple of years of like like kind of struggling in other ways in his life, and then he was like, okay, well, no religion's not really for me. And then he found Buddhism and went like super hardcore in Buddhism, still several years before I met him, like in his early 20s, and was like truly a practicing Buddhist. And he said at that time he would have considered himself a Buddhist. He sort of like got a little less hardcore in practicing with Buddhism, and now he's just sort of like in the middle somewhere. Like he doesn't identify with any faith at the moment, but he, we do have like Buddhist iconography like around the house just because he collects a lot of it, and I find it very beautiful. And obviously, what is it? I always mix it up. Is it Bujus or Jew-Bus? It's
I was
Bujus.
gonna say, I've heard that a lot, that some Buddhist principles are in line with Jewish principles, which is very interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of crossover, which is really cool and not something I'm educated about at all, but like I would love to learn more about it.
Yeah.
And when I have some free time, which is like never right now, but truly like it is something that interests me, and we'll talk about it from time to time. And he explains to me that like Buddhism, if you're it's like more of a practice and a way of life than anything. So he was like, I don't feel I can truly say I'm Buddhist right now because I'm not practicing. But he definitely is a spiritual person, even though his beliefs might be different. Like when we talk about God, like I'm definitely like someone who's like, I believe in God. And he's like, I don't think I do that at the moment, which I think is chill because I think it's complicated either way. Like these beliefs, and getting to the point of understanding that, like, at least in his Christian experience, it's some like the belief in God is something like you talk about a lot. Like, it's not something we really talked about in my family, and I don't think that, like, the emphasis isn't like gatekeeping each other and making sure other people believe in God. So, like, just to know that in other religions it can be that way, that was like a really strange concept to me. And yeah, but so his whole background really fit into our partnership and making interfaith work. And yeah.
Was it when you guys married, did you
Mhm.
did you ever have a moment where you had to think twice if you wanted to hyphenate your name? Because I know a lot of people, they do hyphenate to keep the name going, or they take on the name, or they don't take on the name. So did you have second thoughts about fully taking on his name, last name Light?
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like my decision to do that, I don't know if this is selfish, but I didn't really think about it in context of like my Jewishness.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's because Farber doesn't feel like the most you know, like maybe if it was Cohen or Levy, like I would feel differently. No
Farber
offense
is
to Farber.
pretty Jewish sounding, at
Okay,
least from my point of view.
it is pretty Jewish if you're already Jewish, but I feel like other people like are like Farber. That's not so Jewish because they only know Cohen and Levy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if they know that. So I mean, yes, Farber is. I definitely had like more than one Farber in like private school growing up, and then there was like the gold Farbs also. Like, you know, like Farb is definitely in there. I think that first of all, I did not drop my name because in Texas, you're really lucky. You don't have to. You can put anything you want as a middle name. So now I have just four names. So my full name is Alexandra Page Farber Light, which is like very excessive on my ID, but like I didn't want to drop it. um, I don't think I would have changed it, but again, not really in context of my Judaism, just because like I like my last name a lot, but I just loved light so much.
Mm-hmm.
So it really became like an aesthetic decision. I wish I could say that there was like more like of a
It's
deeper
good for
thing going
union. I
on.
mean, it just rule. I mean, Farber's great. Light is just
Yeah,
industry wise. That's like if
it's kind of like stage namey,
yeah.
yeah, like a little bit. Yeah, and just like, you know, I liked having the one syllable last name because I have such a long first name. Like people always, you know, would usually abbreviate my name or do something anyway. And that also brings me to the point of most people at work, like in my community, call me by my last name, by Farber. And I told when they got married, everyone was like, "Can we still call you that?" And I was like in context of it being a nickname, like absolutely go for it. And like my Instagram handle being Farby, which is just like a friend of mine was like, it's like your last name, but you're a little Barbie. I was like, I love that so much, especially when you get into all the like Jewish history behind Barbies. But anyway, yeah. So like the fact that it was such a part of my life, I was like so down to change my name. And yeah. So I wish I could say there was deeper stuff going on there, but it really was just sort of like it was pretty and like yeah, being in the performing arts, like I just liked it.
On my mom, she so I got my dad's last name, which is not like a Jewish sounding last name, and that but then my mom hyphenated, and she changed it with everything, and then when they got divorced, it was so tough changing it back, and
I can imagine.
she's still
It was tough changing it. Like I was like, isn't this what society wants us to do as women? Is like be like under our man's control or whatever. Not
it's
that I mean,
changing
Tessa and
though.
I are both like
It's interesting because a lot of
100%.
women are not changing, or they'll hyphenate but they won't change it legally. They'll hyphenate it
Right. Yeah.
professionally or whatnot, but then they won't change it. And then I don't know a lot of women that are fully changing their last names anymore. It's like it's becoming a
It's
minority
very
now.
old fashioned,
Yeah.
honestly.
There's nothing
But
wrong with that. You do what you want to do.
right. And the thing is, it's like what motivated me to do it isn't an old fashioned, it wasn't like those reasons. And when it comes to like the institution of marriage, it's the same thing. Like Preston and I love the idea of having this big party with all of our friends. We did have a Jewish wedding, so that was really freaking fun to like expose so many people to that. And like I always wanted to have like a Jewish wedding for sure. Like, you know, ever since my bat mitzvah, you sort of like dream of like the day where you get to like have your chuppah and everything and do
Break the
and be in the chair
glass.
again, you know? Yeah, we have a mezuzah that's we got one of the ones, the glass like comes with a mezuzah that you fill with the shards
Oh.
afterward. We have it in our bedroom door. It's very cute. I really love it, and it's just like I love little memorabilia like that.
Mhm.
But yeah, like we like the idea of marriage for non traditional reasons, but we do recognize that it is a traditional thing
Yeah.
in general. Like but yeah, so I think it's the same with the name change. Like on the outside, it makes me seem like I might be some kind of like trad wife kind of person. I'm really not, and I hated the headache it was to change the name. Like it was so annoying. I was like, this better be for real, because yeah, having to go through that with a divorce, I'm
It's a
like, okay,
lot.
you better not fuck this up, Preston. Like, let's just try and keep. I don't want to do that again. No, all jokes aside, like
I love that. Speaking of, we mentioned stage names and it just rolling off the tongue. So you you made a big move to Texas. How why you made how why did you make that big move? I'm assuming it was before you was it before you met Preston?
yeah,
Okay.
way before I met Preston. No, I don't know. A bit before I met Preston for sure. Yeah, so like I guess continuing on from like, growing up Jewish in the DC area, um, in my high school years, which we may have talked about a little bit last time, but I was at a private day school, so I went to, Jewish school up through high school, and the only reason why I left is because I got in my, mid teenage years, like 16, 15, 16, I was getting pretty serious about my dance training. And like of course in most, I don't know if it's in most day schools, but in our day school we had like block scheduling, blah blah blah. And I was to the point where like if I wanted to go pre-professional with my ballet training, I was gonna have to do like an early release program, which for like a public school was super easy. Like you just take away your lunch period and then you just get out early, take your lunch then, and then you go and do like, for people who do intense sports stuff, like they would need early release or like other programs, whatever. But in my private school, they didn't really have a program that would support that. They were like, it would not work with the block scheduling. Like you'd end up missing all these classes. Like it doesn't make sense. So we came to this hard decision that I would leave JDS, which was my shout out JDS. Actually, did not have the best time there, but that's just because I was an awkward school kid. I didn't have a good time in any school. Let's be real. Until later in life, but so I ended up going to public school for high school, and then my senior year, my parents didn't really know anything about the ballet world. And they were like, okay, you can audition for ballet companies, but you also need to like apply to colleges. So I was really doing like both tracks. And they were like, if it works out in ballet, like cool, we'll like support you. But they didn't know what I was getting into. So, but lucky for me, I got my first contract. Like I had a couple little opportunities that came up from auditioning, but the best opportunity I got was to join Houston Ballet's second company, HB2, which is like a second company is for ballet dancers is sort of like a bridge between your like pre-professional training, like being in a school, and then like working full time for a ballet company. So I was there for 1 year. So yeah, literally the day after I graduated high school, I got in the car with my mom and we moved me to Houston. um, it was crazy, and I went right into training like that next week in their summer program, and then in the year working with the main company all the time, and then after that year, like I could have stayed on another year, but it just made sense for me. I mean, everybody was auditioning anyway because you're like 18, 19, trying to get a position with a main company, and um, so I auditioned for Texas Ballet Theater, which is like 4 hours north of Houston, like in the Dallas Fort Worth area, which is where I am now. And I got my first apprenticeship contract with them in 2012. And I've been there ever since. And I'm now a principal dancer. So I'm at the highest rank, which is super cool. And yeah, like, I mean, the ballet world is complicated and toxic and needs a lot of help. But obviously, it's been super rewarding in a lot of ways, and I'm really grateful to have been able to call the stage my home for the last 13 years. So yeah, that's how I kind of ended up here in Texas. And I thought about leaving and auditioning, but I really fell in love with the works we were doing here. Um, I got to do some really cool repertoire things that I dreamed about doing in the Middle Summit Elevated by Forsyth, DGV by Christopher Wheeldon. Our director, Ben Stevenson, or our emeritus director, he was director when I first came in and only stepped down like a year or two ago. Has amazing like story ballets, like getting to do Swan Lake, White Swan, Black Swan, like Dream. Um, so many amazing things. We did a piece by Ohad Naharin a couple of years ago. We did his work Minus 16, which is like the whole opening movement. Like if for people who might not be familiar with like the dance scene, but Ohad Naharin is, I think he's the director now. Shoot, I'm so bad about like knowing all the like people names, who's director of what, but I can't remember if he's still director now or if like new people have taken over. But he basically made Batsheva Dance Company what it is, and
Oh
like
wow.
their name on like the global stage. And his choreographic work is like super edgy and famous. And the beginning of Minus 16, one of his pieces that we did here, you sing Echad Mi Odea. It's like this Echad Mi Odea, but like with like intense drum beats. And everyone sits around in a circle. It's like a really, like, everyone go Google this because it's such a incredible dance work. But everybody is wearing suits, like men and women. And I don't remember, there's like 20 of us on stage, like in this ring, like a U shape on the stage. And it's like this really intense, like, boom, boom, echa, mio day, echa, whatever. And each of the like verses has like a move to it, like some like contemporary dance move, whatever everybody's doing in these chairs. And when you get to the Elohenu part, everybody like does this intense like backbend from their chair. And then in between each verse, you remove an article of clothing, everybody but one guy who they call the rabbi. And he has to like fall down on the floor out of his chair. It's like, words do not do justice. Like, you just go Google it. But to do that piece here, it was so cool. Erez Zohar came to set it on us, who was a dancer in Batsheva for a long time. And the best part is we were rehearsing it around the time of Pesach. So like it was so cool for me. Oh, and I guess I should add in, I'm so rambling about this right now, but everybody had to say Sheba Shamayim Uva Aretz. Everyone had to scream it each verse. Like all the dancers on stage had to scream it. So for me, of course, like I already know the song. But for everybody else, they were all like, they were like, what is it? What is it? So it was really cool to be like the one. Well, no, I guess I wasn't the only Jew in the company at that time, but I think I was the only one who like was familiar with the song. We had one other Jewish dancer at the time. Um, yeah, it was pretty fun to get to do that. I miss doing that work. It's been several years. We've had like some change in management. We haven't really done anything as cool or edgy. But yeah, I would say like the 2014 to 2018, 19 period of time for me in this ballet company was like,
Peak.
just like I look back as, yeah, so much fondness. And like I'm still getting to do amazing work. Like I'm still like, but I'm definitely at a different place in my career than I was at that time. And like, to get to do one of Naharin's works, like, amazing.
So I remember you mentioned Anna Pavlova. So who I want to you know what, I'm going to flip it around. I was going to say who inspired you to pursue dance, but I want to hear who's inspiring you now, currently. And we can talk about like historically famous ballerinas and people in the ballet world who inspire you too, but inspiring you currently, modern day, and in the past as well.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's probably a good time to mention that I am starting to transition into choreography as like my full-time thing. I mean, that sounds weird. Like I'm still dancing with the ballet company, like I'm still doing that full time, but I have made the decision that what I really want to do once I'm retired from my dance career, which, for like ballet dancers is like, I would say the average for women is like, probably around 30, and I'm 31 now. I mean, like that's an average. Like there are women who go on to do it until like they're 40, 41, 42, something. There are women who even go longer than that. Like Alessandra Ferri is like amazing. She's like in her 50s and she just came back to dancing like on stage. It's crazy. I mean, not everyone has gonna have the body that's gonna be able to do that, but like still love her, like amazing. But a lot of women, like, they're starting to think about what they want to do as far as like family, where they want to live, like, because this career is so time consuming that, like, yeah, so you have to know your plan B, even if you're like me and lucky to be able to continue doing it into your 30s. Like, I could probably someone turned to me the other day and was like, Alexandra, you could be doing this in 10 years if you wanted to. And I was like, I don't know if I want to. Like there's like, there's good reasons to, and also good reasons to, like if you've done the thing, kind of, and you know what you want to do next and you have a real passion. And choreography and storytelling is what I really want to do. So there is an Israeli choreographer, Sharon Ayal, who I want to be more familiar with more of her works, but some of the works I've seen are really inspiring to me, especially like from a choreographic standpoint. Um, yeah, so there's a lot of really cool choreography going on in Israel at the moment anyway. Like I also follow Vertigo Dance. I want to say they're based in Tel Aviv. I don't think they're I don't remember. But like just like their Instagram feed just like like I just love watching what they're doing. And they did this cool, I wish I could have gone so badly. They did like a really cool movement dance based like artist residency kind of thing. I wonder if my absolute shit Hebrew would have like probably gotten in the way, but like it'd probably be good for me to like practice again. I mean, like but like, oh man, if I could go to something like that, that would be so cool. So, you know, I know we said like, oh, not necessarily Jewish, but those truly are, companies
I
and
remember
careers
you
right now.
mentioned last time someone who, oh my gosh, someone who ended up in the concentration camp in the Holocaust, who was a ballerina.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So her name is Francesca Mann, and she was a dancer. Like, again, this like the images speak a thousand words. So like everyone should Google her because she was just beautiful and stunning and like iconic ballerina looking, like there's some photo shoots of her in like the tutus, and like they're just burned into my memory, these pictures of her. And I want to say she was Polish. I might not be 100% correct about that, but obviously Eastern European, and was dancing, doing her thing in late 30s, early 40s, whatever, around the time of bad stuff going down, if you know what I mean. And so the story goes she was taken into, I want to say Auschwitz, but a concentration camp regardless. And I think she was in line for something with a number of women. Um, well, I should also say that like during her time there, it was reported that like she would be, commanded by guards to like perform, like they would make her perform, and like, they would use her as like a spectacle, which is like pretty fucked up. But she was in line for something, and I don't know for sure like if she was in line for like potentially like, um yeah, like execution. Ugh, gets so dark so fast. But that she, kind of knew it was her last stand. And I don't know if she intended to escape or if she was trying to help other people escape, but she essentially like tried to seduce a guard because they all knew her as this very like charismatic like dancer figure, everything like that. And like obviously she was, this beautiful woman. She like seduced a guard in order to steal his gun. And I don't know if she actually shot any of the guards, but she essentially caused enough madness that people were able to sort of like escape. Like I think that was her intention, was to try and allow women to escape, and not be sent to execution. So I don't know if it, and I don't think there's, when I've read the story, like lots of people are like, it's hard to confirm any
Yeah,
of this because, like, and we can talk about the fact too that like so many people who did survive the Shoah like are not with us anymore. Like the
yeah.
generation is
They're very,
dying off
very,
because
very
I think
few.
that's right because they're older now.
Yeah,
Those who survived, but yeah, obviously she was detained and murdered
yeah.
like pretty instantly afterward, but that was sort of like her last stand. And I just think that's like
That's like
such an amazing
badass.
story.
That's
Yeah,
badass.
she's a pretty badass figure. And I'm just like, oh, like when I think in terms of like choreography for the future, I mean, there's so many things I want to explore, but like as a Jewish person, like there are not, there's a couple like ballets, like bigger known ballets about World War II and like somewhat the Jewish perspective a little bit. Most of them are still like more on the fringe. Julia Adam is a really cool choreographer who is Jewish. She's probably like 15 or 20 years older than I am, and she has a couple of cool pieces that are related to her heritage being
Hmm.
Jewish. But like they're not performed that frequently, and like I don't know, I just really like to see more of that. And when I think about stories like Francesca Mann, I'm like, oh my God, like what a beautiful,
That would be a cool,
what a tragic story.
if it could be
Yeah.
brought into any medium, that would be really cool.
Yeah. I would love to pursue that kind of stuff when I get in there. Cause
Hmm.
yeah, I just like, it's shocking to me that there isn't more. I mean, I guess it shouldn't be so shocking. Like I talk to people all the time about like how small the community of Jewish people is, and like
In dance,
obviously in the world.
in the
I
world,
mean, like
yeah.
yeah, like people don't realize like how much of a minority we are. So then when anti-Semitism rises, it's like kind of fucking terrifying
Yeah.
because you're like, there's not that many of us. Like, and I don't know, people get such crazy assumptions in their head about Jews, but at the same time, it's like we're just trying to survive at the end of the day. Like,
Oh.
we're just trying to protect our like cultural heritage. So, yeah, I really seek to bring more light to that. No pun intended. Um, in my career.
That pun intended. Um,
Really, like it has been really fun. Like that's the other thing is that like harbor you can't make that many jokes with light. Like oh my god, I'm doing it all the
mhm.
time. Things that Preston like has had to live through his entire life. I'm loving. I'm loving all the memes. Anyway,
You're so what has it been like for you in the industry, specifically as a Jewish woman, being in dance, large, generally in the performing arts, in entertainment, and have you seen a major shift since October 7th happened? What was it like before then, and what is it like now currently?
yeah, um, yeah. I think it's. I mean, when I first joined the ballet company, there were three Jewish identifying people, self included, uh, and one who considered himself like half Jewish. And since that time, for various reasons, like I don't think related to their Jewishness, but none of them are here besides me. So I'm the only Jewish member of the ballet company right now. Yeah. Um, I think that in general, pre and post October 7th, I don't think I've seen that much of a shift in behavior from people around me, but I think I just started to identify what is anti-Semitism much like I just suddenly am like more aware. Whereas like before I think I was just like, oh, a silly Hitler joke. Ha ha ha. Like that's so funny, I guess. Like, I don't know, from like just non-Jewish people. I mean, that happens all the time. But you just sort of start to like become aware of like there are really there's so much anti-Jewish sentiment out there, and it's crazy. Um, October 7th itself was really, I mean, obviously really fucking difficult for all of us. But we were performing that weekend, and I remember, yeah, it really fucking sucked. Um, I remember coming home from because I don't was it a I mean performance weekends get so blurry for me because we're like in dress rehearsal and this and that, so like it's just an exhausting weekend where I don't even know what day it is anymore. But I remember coming home from the performance on Friday night, yeah, and it was so wild because like we get news updates about stuff, and like the only thing I was seeing was from because I think most people were either like by the time I was getting the news my family over there was asleep, or like it was like very early in the morning for them, so I don't think we would have heard. And it was Shabbat,
And it
and
was
so
Simchat
because they keep showing,
Torah.
yeah, and it was Simchat Torah. You're right.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. So we didn't there like we have a big family WhatsApp, obviously, like most people who have family that are international.
Mm.
I think everybody's got that probably. Um so that of course was radio silence. And I think we like there was a strange comfort in that because we knew if any I mean, I don't know what would have happened if God forbid, you know, a family member was, at very high risk or,
Hmm.
God forbid, like something bad had happened. Like I think we maybe would have heard something, but there was radio silence over there, so we couldn't really communicate with our family because it was the middle of the night, also holidays, and they, you know, keep Shomer Shabbat and keep for the
Yeah.
holidays and stuff. So they wouldn't have had their phones on. Um, and I wasn't seeing anything from like actual news sources. The only things I was seeing was, I think the first report I saw of it came from Yuri
Oh wow.
on Instagram. Yeah, like I just opened Instagram and I was like, just coming off of a performance, being like, what's happening? And like, my dad, of course, with all of his family over there, is pretty plugged into this stuff. But again, it was like 11 p.m. Texas time. My parents live in DC, so like it
1
was already
a.m.
midnight there. He's probably
Oh,
asleep.
yeah,
Yeah,
12.
like yeah. Just crazy. Like I was just so confused what I was seeing. And my husband also was like way better keeping up with the news than me. And I was like, have you seen any, like, what is something bad happening? Like what is happening? Like just the pure confusion. And then like Googling it and not finding anything. And like that was like the initial like shock and pain for me, was just like, what, as the story unfolded, as I talked to my family the next morning and my dad and everybody, and like finding out everybody was okay, and our immediate, I mean, as okay as they could be, but like, no one was physically harmed or anything. Just not understanding why like there wasn't any Western coverage over what was going on immediately. Like it almost just seemed like nobody cared. And that entire the rest of that weekend, having to perform on Saturday and Sunday, no one knew. And so going into work with like, and I tried to describe this the other day to someone about like how big of a deal October 7th is for Jewish people and people who live in Israel and people whose family lives in Israel and the whole community and ethnic group. Um, and how difficult it was to like go and perform on stage, and like no one was like, "Are you good?" Because they didn't even know. Like it was so shitty that weekend. And I remember we had someone go out for injury, which like happens from time to time. I had to like go in last minute for a spot, and like so that's like hard and frustrating just on its own. But I remember like just trying my best to do that, but like just feeling so bogged down from everything happening that weekend. And I got back to my dressing room, which I shared with two women who of course aren't Jewish, and I just broke down crying, and they were kind of looking at me like, what is your deal? Like it's not that hard to learn another role. And I was like, you just, this weekend is just really really difficult for me to get through, and like trying to explain what was going on to them, but like just being bombarded with like so many questions, or like just like indifference. And
Yeah.
it was just really hard. Like that sucked.
How was it for you with your husband?
Preston was amazing.
Okay.
Like he is
That's
so good about like staying up to date on the WhatsApp. Like he would like, because he knows that I keep that that WhatsApp can be like very active from time to time, especially like with the huge time difference. So I have it on like
mute.
so I don't get the
Yeah.
notifications. Yeah, I have it on mute. He was like constantly checking it, updating me about anything, like because he knew
Wow.
like I would get his text message. He'd be like, "Okay, like Seth just checked in, like everything's good, like this is who." I mean, everybody got pulled into, because I have 10. I'm one of 12 cousins,
Oh wow.
so I'm one of, yeah. So other than me and my two sisters, everybody else has been through the service. The youngest of my cousins is 18, and I'm one of the eldest. So we're all really close in age. Like the oldest is 35 and the youngest is 18. So there's 12 of us in that range. So everybody or their husbands got pulled into reserves. And
Are any of them actively in reserves now?
one of them uh is my one cousin's husband, I believe, is still in reserve. Like he wasn't actively working for the military, and I think he is still in reserves right now
Okay.
working. My one cousin, her husband is a commander, so like he was obviously already working, but
Wow.
he has been like on the front
He's been
lines.
in Gaza?
Um,
Ooh.
yeah,
Gosh.
so yeah, it's been crazy, but at the same time, like I don't know, like yeah, the whole thing is just like hard to explain emotionally, like how it feels, because it's just like it's really difficult to understand what it's like being there, and yet these people who are so close to me are like literally there. And I mean, it feels very powerless because we can message them on WhatsApp and wish them the best, and like tell them how much we love them, and like, but you just want to be able to do more, and it's just so challenging. And I'm just realizing now that I totally forgot the most complicated part about this whole story for my family. But it's kind of a long story. I don't know how much you want to get into it. Long story short, my grandmother, my paternal grandmother, so from the Jewish side, she had kidney disease, which can be genetic. But if it doesn't transfer to you genetically, then the rest of your family doesn't have to worry about it, right? So when they found out what my grandmother had and everything, my dad and his two brothers who live in Israel all got tested. And my dad and their youngest brother do not have kidney disease, so that's great. Me and my sisters never have to worry about it. The one uncle of mine does have kidney disease. And when I was really young, they told me, hey, one day your dad's going to have to donate his kidney to your uncle. And that's going to be, a big deal at the time, but don't stress about it right now. That was when I was like, like 2 years old, not two, but like, it was so long ago. I barely remember it. Flash forward to spring of 2023, and they said, hey, your uncle's numbers have gotten kind of not so good. You know, where he's at the age where like they really push it to like they possibly as far as they possibly can, because even with live donation, an organ usually has like a bit of a expiration date. So like they don't want to do it when you're 40 and then it expire when you're 60 and you need another transplant. So my uncle and my dad are both in their 60s, so they were like, look, it's probably going to be this year. It was originally scheduled for October 1, and because of a complication, had to be pushed back to November 1. So once October 7th happened, we were all like, my uncle needs my dad to go there to donate his kidney or he will die. So when the war broke out, we were all like, immediately you couldn't fly over there, you couldn't get over there. Like, what the hell were we gonna do? So that also became like a huge. It's so funny because obviously, long story short, but like everyone's well. My dad was able to go over, donate the kidney. It was obviously a very special time. My uncle's doing incredible. My dad has recovered great. He's back in the States. Like everything went amazing. So it's easy for me now to like look back and be like, woo, like not a big deal. But it was incredibly stressful at the time. So it just added an extra layer to everything going on there.
Have you
So my dad ended
have
up
you had
flying with.
any type of support besides from your husband from Preston? Has there been any support from the dance community or from your company at all?
In the first week, I remember seeing one ballet company, National Ballet Theater of Canada, coming out and making a post supporting, the Jewish people and the state of Israel and everything going on.
Obviously, they got
And I
backlash
asked
for that. Yeah.
probably I didn't really like look at the comments because I mean I took a break off of social media
Oh
right
wow.
after October 7th because I was just like I can't, like it was just so hard. All the for so many of us who like thought that all this shit went out the door with the Holocaust and thinking like, okay, there's still some crazy people, but people love Jews, we're good. And then to see the aftermath and like, everybody sort of like, I mean, it's still going on. It's still going on. But now I've just sort of like I took a month to like, you know, get used to it, I guess. Um, ugh. But anyway, at that time, I reached out to my company and I said, look, I would really like you guys to say something. And they did. So don't love that. Living where I do, I know we talked about a little bit about this before we started recording, but it's strange because like I hold liberal political views and living in Texas in the Bible Belt, like it's obviously a very conservative place. So in a strange way, there was like this kind of safety that came with that, like because a lot of conservative people are very pro-Israel, which like for liberal people who are like now in between worlds, just because they like want to protect their nation state and their cultural heritage, so fucked. But I remember the week, what was it, the second or third week, I think, after October 7th. So, like, getting into November, um, there we have a bunch of synagogues. I've never been a shul person. Like, I wish I could say I was. Like, I go to shul sometimes here. Like, I'm like the Christian who only goes like on Christmas and Easter and stuff. Like, I go on Yom Kippur, if that. Honestly, the last few years, like, I've fasted, but like I'll zoom into like a service so I can hear stuff. But like I just it's hard in my community. Like I've just not
Hmm.
found the right people in my community that like make shul a fun time. Like I go there and everyone's always like, so which college do you go to? And I'm like, guys, I've come here like every whatever. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But there are a bunch of shuls around. Um and they did like a group vigil. And Preston and I did attend that. Um, it was super beautiful. The mayor of Fort Worth showed up, and like spoke. The head of the police department like showed up, and like everybody came out and was like, "Look, we've got your back." So that felt really powerful. But as far as like the dance community, like it's been pretty difficult. My ex director, I mean, I don't say he's the director emeritus. He's not technically the artistic director anymore, but he did send me a really really lovely message and was just like, I can imagine this is like a really hard time for you, and I just wanted to let you know I'm thinking of you and your family. So that was really sweet. One of the more religious, not Jewish, but I think she's practices Catholicism. Um, she visited Israel for the first time a few years ago, like with her church, but she came up to me at work and was just like, "I'm so sorry. Like I see what you're going through, and like I understand, or I can try and understand." I mean, I'm not quoting her exactly. Um, it's been a struggle with like my friend groups. Um,
That's usually where it
because
happens.
yeah, it's just
Have you lost
I
friends?
I feel very fortunate that I haven't lost friends. Like no one in my close circle has come out and been like, spewing super anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic messaging that I like can't get behind. I think I just struggle with like a little bit of like apathy from people who they were like, "Oh, you're like my fun Jewish friend." I mean, I don't think they would say that so flippantly, but like they're not educated enough
Mm.
to about the issue. So it's more just been the case of like if I want to talk about it or express my feelings, I get a lot of like, "Well, can you prove this? Can you prove that?" Like not and I don't think they're trying to be
They just don't get it.
mean about it. They just don't
Yeah.
get it. Yeah, and I think a lot of people I was talking about this with Preston last week. Like, I think a lot of people, when you grow up Jewish and you understand the historical context from a very young age, like, Israel is not a country like America is a country. Like, it is so much more than that. But you can't understand that unless you go through like what we went through as like kids, like just learning about Israel from like a young age and
Learning
like
about our history too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like it almost leaves you incapable of describing it because like for us it's ingrained like it is I would say even down to like a cellular level. Like I mean there is like some evidence. I mean we talked a lot about this when we talked about Black Lives Matter about like like trauma from there's a better word for this, trauma from heritage though, like ancestral trauma. And I think with everything going on in Israel for a lot of Jewish people, like we're experiencing this ancestral trauma. And it's really difficult when you don't have other people around you who, it's not their fault. They can't feel the same way, but there is a certain level of like, man, I wish some of them would have gone a little bit like further with just like reading an article or two or something. Cause when people reach out and people ask all the time, like how, like I've had really, really nice conversations with people who reach out and say, I see what's going on. I understand that this is very difficult for you. Like, how can I be there for you? How can I help? And I'm like, honestly, just checking in and recognizing that there is something going on. You may not fully understand it, but like knowing that you can go find resources, like that meant the world to me. And like, there are so many people who came out that I haven't spoken to in years. And I'm like, wow, like that was really powerful and like was a very positive thing to feel like okay there are people who really do have your back, that you might not expect, even if like maybe your local community is like failing you a little bit. And I feel again very fortunate that I didn't have anyone in my local community who made me feel like outright unsafe or anything like that. So yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that was a lot. uh,
I mean it is a
it's a
lot,
lot.
it's a lot, and it's
Yeah,
ongoing, like
it's
it's tough.
yeah. But what would what would your advice be to people who are in the performing arts, whether, well, specifically for Jewish people, but then there's also going to be like a part two to this, but for Jewish people who may be having a tough time right now, especially with the current climate, that are in the performing arts, what would your advice be to them if they're feeling insecure in their identity, expressing themselves, uh, if they're finding it difficult to push through and to quote unquote, which we're told all of this all the time, leave it at the door, what would your advice be to those people?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, there's a couple different things. Number one would be obviously like good friends and family. Like I cannot express how much like Preston helped me get through that time, especially initially, and then with my dad going through the transplant. Like the transplant also I think helped distract a little bit from the anti-Semitism issue because I was just like, okay, I'm dead focused on my family right now. Like I don't have room for that. I can't like, focus on that. Um, but it was really powerful just to like kind of separate from everyone. So if you need a break from like your group of friends or you need a break from like your community or your, like don't forget that like even though we love our jobs as performing artists and everything, it's a job. Like don't feel bad if you need to. I think there was a day in there even where like I called in sick, like needed a personal day because like you need to take care of your mental health first and foremost and like that's still a taboo topic and like because like you said like we're just like expected to drop it at the door and just come in work 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 but like if you need a little break take a little break for sure reaching out to people like not to like say like everyone bombard my like inbox or anything but like my Instagram I'm sure we'll share or whatever like if you feel compelled to reach out to someone also in the performing arts who's also dealing with this stuff I'm like more than happy. I can't tell you how helpful it was from you posting from Yuri posting from everybody posting like different accounts that I had not yet followed and just like like anytime I saw something that like made me feel unsafe, like unfollow that person and then just start following other people who were experiencing the same things. And like, the month away from social media was great, but like obviously I need it for a lot of my livelihood and like some of the work I do and, like some of the hustling I do like on the side. So like I had to come back to it, but just being able to shift it like that and like just feel like I was getting more content that was from people in my community globally who are experiencing this, like it really helped a lot. I know it sounds silly, like, but just to be like, you know, getting people and not just like, I mean, it is very important to have like the educational roots medal. I mean, like
She's
queen,
great.
queen. And I mean, I followed her pre October 7th, but
She's yeah.
like she just makes it so easy to help educate
She
people
puts
too.
a
I'm just
lot
like
of sources too. Like it's not just like she says it, she says this is where I got it from.
I already crushed on her just pre
Yeah.
everything, but now I'm just like, oh my god, like you are truly doing all the work for all of us. Like, god, like yeah, everybody, if you have a spare buck, like everybody go give to her Cash App because like I do try and do that when I have like a spare buck or something because she really is doing amazing work. But yeah, like yeah they just give so many resources and also to see the posts where like not to say that hers are very important and like they're really deep dives and stuff but also to see like some more lighthearted like the stuff you post from time to time that's like a little bit more lighthearted and like because we do kind of have to laugh at the end of the day like it's a really hard time we're going through and like we can't just be in this fight or flight the whole time like especially as people who we're far away from it and like it's really a strain to feel that helplessness all the time so to be able to like get a little I don't want to say levity it's not like we're making light of the situation but like just to be able to like recognize what we're going through in a satirical way is super was super helpful. So yeah, for people in the performing arts, I feel like if you're not already following all those people I already mentioned and like, anybody they mentioned, like go ahead and do it because like it truly did help my return to social media. And a lot of us get work through social media and like do things on social media that help us make ends meet. So like we kind of have to be there and it can be a really shitty toxic place. Um I think there's one more thing I was gonna say as far as like people in performing arts. Oh yeah, it's like it's strange, but as a dancer and choreographer, I think as I sort of like start or continue to like deal with everything going on, when you feel like you're in a safe place to anyway, like, take breaks when you need to, but when you are in it, dancing or singing or making whatever it is you make, like finding your way of existing and thriving as a Jewish person is an act of resistance for sure. And like just finding your true self and your heritage like in the work that you're doing um, just keeping that in mind really helped me have like better days at work for sure. Of like, I am here and I am representing my heritage and my culture, and I'm bringing that to the work that I'm doing. um, that was really helpful for me when I, did feel like safe enough to work and do stuff, and which for the most part was most of the time for me. But I don't think that's the case for everybody. It depends on kind of where your environment is. So yeah.
That kind of answers my part too, because I was going to go into just a general how, if you're losing your passion or your drive in times of doubt, what would you do? But I think you kind of already answered that. Would is there
Yeah,
anything that you would add, or
I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, like there are times where like I remember very young in my career, I had a really great mentor tell me, Alexandra, it's not all going to be champagne and glitter. And I was like, oh, I guess you're right. Like, regardless of whether it's like to do with, I mean, obviously the weight of it being like a cultural identity issue is very heavy. So sometimes you do need to take a little bit of a step back. But there are going to be moments where you feel like picking up the paintbrush, quote unquote. And like in those moments, like really connecting to that, you know, identity can be really helpful. So yeah.
on that note, I think that's a perfect place. I don't want to say leave it off. Well, no, we're going to leave it off, but to be continued, because
Yes, yeah, for sure.
I'm really thankful that you're here. You've shared so many valuable things about yourself, about what you've been through, and I just want to give you a big thank you for coming again to talk, and for being vulnerable, and for just doing what you're doing, because it's such a tough time in the performing arts, and to stand your ground, be proud of who you are, what you believe in, your values, that's admirable, and I hope more people can do that.
Mm, yeah, me too. Like, I hope, I don't know, if I even made like one other person feel like, okay, I'm not alone, like, mission accomplished then, I think. So,
I definitely don't feel alone.
yeah.
Thank you.
And all the work that you're doing too. Like, truly thank you for that because it makes it easier.
I just, yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
that's where
they're
we're at right
just
now.
no,
Like,
they're
this,
just there's so many amazing people. I want everybody to be able to find you and let everyone know what you're going to be up to. This is going to be coming out in around April, May, give or take. So anything from that point on, I want everybody to know where to find you online and what you're going to be up to.
yeah. I mean, the easiest way to find me and get in touch with me is probably through Instagram, which my handle, like I said before, is Farbie, Farbie, because I never truly dropped the last name. And like I don't post a ton on my, well, that's not true. Like I'm posting at least once a week to my main feed, but if there are updates, they're going to be there, and you can get the link to my website, which is alexandralight.art, because someone took alexandralight.com. It's like not, it's not even a website. They just own the domain, and it's one of those things, someone just bought them all up, and like so rude. But anyway, alexandralight.art is where you can find like my actual website. As far as things coming up, I have a choreographic partnership with the Modern Museum of Art in Fort Worth, which is super amazing. I'm doing my fifth production with them in April, April 13th and 14th. So if you're like local or want to come to that, they are always free, because part of the point of the program I do with them is to make it accessible to the community who doesn't, might not be able to afford being able to go to an opera house to see the ballet, but could come and see us there. Um, it's kind of fun. I'll take a little side tangent to explain the work. It's kind of a part two to work I did a few years ago, which was called Inside Voices. That was loosely based on the idea of L'Adore Vador. And I did talk about that when I like presented the work at the time, and like had this idea of like generations, and it has these four couples that sort of like represent different stages of the life cycle, essentially. And we're coming back with a part two, and it's called Ode, spelled Ode. But of course, like if you speak Hebrew, Ode is sort of like a word for like another or again or like additional. So it's a fun play on words. And it, even though the work is not like on its head, it, like it definitely is a Jewish work for sure. So I'm very excited about that. Anyway, I will be posting clips from it and stuff as we get closer. It's actually not officially announced yet, but I'm sure it will be if it's not already going on by the time this comes out. So that's exciting. And then there is also for New York people in I did a artist residency with the Frank Lloyd Wright Martin House last year in Buffalo. And I created a dance work, a 17-minute long solo that I performed on site there. And then we also made a film version of it. And the film version of it took a really long time to produce and like get finished. So it just got finished in December, but they are going to premiere it. And I'm going to, I think, go up there to be part of the movie premiere of it in May. So if you're in the Buffalo area or
Make a
whatever,
trip
that
to
should be
New
happening.
York City.
Honestly, I should. I mean, like I said, my sister lives in Brooklyn, so I need to. I'm always trying to visit her, but she's also like crazy busy, and
Mm.
that New York grind and everything. But we'll see. We'll see when I end up getting up there and like what this summer ends up
Mm-hmm.
holding. But I think there will also be at least somewhat some kind of digital form of
Mm-hmm.
that. So that'll be on my social media and everything around that time. So hopefully around the time this episode comes out. So if you want to see me dancing my own choreography, which I don't do that often, but the nature of the residency, it was a solo residency. So you can see me dancing and choreographing and being a part of making a film. So yeah,
Exciting
that's
stuff.
coming.
Very exciting
Yeah,
stuff. And
yeah.
I just want to say thank you to everyone who watched and is continued to watching and supporting me and my guests, which is always so nice to see. And I want to thank Alexandra again for being here. You can find me at Hot
Yeah.
Jewish Energy, at Hot Jewish Podcast, and at Michael T. Valdes with an S at the end. The arts are important. Go support live theater. The arts in general, but
Yeah.
specifically live theater. Go support live theater.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for being here, Alexandra, and thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
Have a great day,
Thanks.
night, wherever you are, and Am Yisrael Chai, and stay safe.
Yes.
Bye. Thank you for watching. This is Hot Jewish Energy. If you like this episode, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and share your favorite moment in the comments. If you're on any of the podcasting platforms, give us a 5-star rating and let us know your favorite part of the show. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.